For 2 years, I had turned down The View, The Today Show, the CBS show, but because I knew that answer was not in alignment with my whispering, with my calling, with the self I wanted to show up as, I put it in a box. All those, I can't do it, I'll do it when, I put into a box. And what you don't own, owns you. And that was the day I knew I had to do some work to figure this thing out, to get over the anxiety of having to be perfect.
Welcome back to another episode of the Todd Durkin Impact Show. My name is Todd Durkin, and I'm here in my home office today. Matter of fact, this is where all the magic happens. This is the epicenter where I do a lot of my writing and a lot of my work. And the Impact Show is now predicated to the home office. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode number 68, Tap into the Whispers. As a matter of fact, it's with my good friend Petra Kolber. I've known her close to 20 years. And Petra is a leader. She's a thought leader. And she talked a lot about, number one, Perfection Detox, a book she wrote. But more importantly today, about tapping into your whispers, about when you tap into your whispers of what it's going to do and allow you to create and manifest, even at this very, very peculiar time in our country and world's history. So enjoy today's show. I think you're really going to enjoy it. But before we go there, before we go out to the interview, I want to just remind you of a couple things. Number one, thank you. Thank you for all of the love, the light that you guys have been offering. Thank you for your comments and your DMs. I read every single one of them. I so appreciate it. And you're lighting me up right now because together we must come together right now as a family, as a community, and continue to shine our light bright despite some tough, challenging times. I want to remind you that we will get through this. We will overcome. We will rise up. We will do this. Remember that over and over, your mantra. We got this. We got this. We got this. Couple reminders before we go into the interview. Be the most positive person you know. Be the most positive person that you know, right? Come on in, Jersey. Come into the office. I even got the Jersey dog as part here. He's like scratching at the door. Now that is real and raw. Going back all the way to episode number 1 when I shared that the Todd Durkin Impact Show will always be real, authentic, and genuine. I got the Jersey dog at my feet now. Number 2, keep moving. You got to keep moving. Get outside, enjoy nature. It's really good for your soul to keep moving. Keep washing your hands, stay smart, and do that right before you eat great food. Right? Your fresh fruits and vegetables, get it in. It's loaded up with vitamin A, vitamin C, and antioxidants. If you want to supplement those along with some vitamin D, very important right now. Keep your nutrition locked and loaded. How about sleep? If you missed episode 66, peace, prayer, and push-ups, go back to that because I share some of your best practices that are needed right now, including your rules. What rules can you create right now to stay dialed into the here and now, including getting sleep and focusing on recovery? It's so important right now to focus on the now. No worrying about 2 to 3 months from now, but uber maniacal focus on the now. That's an art. By focusing on the now with breath work and meditation and prayer, focusing on the things you can control, not the things you can't control. And then lastly, extreme gratitude. Like what and who are you most grateful for today? Right now, today, who is it and what is it you're most grateful for? See, when we stay in this state of gratitude, it really helps us in the now so that we don't increase our anxiety or our stress. When we work out, we eat good, and you keep doing your breath work and your meditation and faith time, then all of a sudden you start being in control of what you can control. So that's going to be the real emphasis and focus of today, tapping into those whispers, because right now, perhaps this is a time where you feel like you've lost some control. You can't control a lot of things right now, and it's okay. So if you're a perfectionist like I am, you got to give that up. And that's what Petra and I talked about just weeks before COVID-19 actually became as rampant as it is today. Focus on the things that you can control and give up perfectionism. Matter of fact, she calls it being a passionist versus a perfectionist. A passionist versus a perfectionist. And then tapping into your whispers. So some really great stuff that you got in store today. Share it with your kids. Share it with your family. Share it with anyone in your community or on your social media. And if you like today's episode, please remember, because most of us have a little more time than normal right now, if you haven't done so already, can you please go back and make sure that you give us a 5-star rating and write a review? A 5-star rating and write us a review. It really helps drive the podcast up so that we can give more light and more love out into the world. And lastly, Petra does actually share 3 questions. She asked 3 questions in the podcast. Answer those questions. Share them on your social media. Pose this to your people on your social media or in your emails. And then we're going to create some great impact. My friends, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Or perhaps you want to go out for a walk and enjoy the show. But either way, get out there, move your bodies, and don't forget to tap into your whispers. All right, folks, buckle your bootstraps. I've got Petra Kolber in the house. Petra, how are you today?
I am so good. It is a thrill, an honor, and a privilege to have you in my home today.
Wow. Well, what I'm pumped about is not just talking about perfectionism and getting unstuck and how to becoming unstoppable, all the great things that you've been preaching, but we've got to start with a little story. I met you over 20 years ago at an AFPA conference. I believe it was Myrtle Beach. Was it Myrtle Beach?
It was Myrtle Beach.
Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And I remember I had a boot camp class and you were in the other room and there was like a wafer thin wall separating the two of us. Now you gotta remember, folks, this wafer thin wall, I had a boot camp and I was singing the loudest chant you could possibly do. And Petra, what class were you teaching over there? Do you remember?
I gotta think it was either a step class or a high-low dance class, something that was completely the opposite of boot camp. At least it wasn't yoga.
And I remember the next thing I know, I heard about 150 knocks and pounds coming on that wall from all your people because of the noise I was creating. And that forged the beginning of over a 20-plus year friendship. And we talked about how Petra has been an icon in the fitness industry. But what I'm most curious about, Petra, you've had this unbelievable metamorphosis in the last, I'll say, 5 years with all of the industry accolades in the fitness world. Now you're doing a lot of speaking. You go into the positive psychology a bit. You're an author. You're a podcaster. What was the metamorphosis of the change?
Great question, Todd. I think it was, like you, I've been in the industry for like 20 years, I would say, when I began to feel like there was something itching, that little whisper, like something needs to change. And I was teaching around the world. So blessed to have this career that paid me well. But I kept feeling like there was a pain that wasn't like a muscular pain. It was something we couldn't fix or rehab through traditional fitness. And what would happen is, I would look out at these hundreds, thousands of people and just think these people are incredible. And at the end of my talks, my presentations, people would come up and say, well, how do I get rid of this? Or how do I get rid of this? So all they could see was what was wrong with them. So there was that piece. I felt like there was a yearning for something different. And here's the real honest truth, Todd. I was in the fitness world when it was step and high-low and dance. And then like anything, there's a change, right? And the change was boot camp. Todd Durkin, go, go, go. And HIIT training and all of that, which is fantastic. And either you do what you reinvent yourself and give what the audience wants, if it's in alignment with your values, or you reinvent yourself. So I tried at first to reinvent myself and stay in that world. So I was teaching boot camp and HIIT. And to be honest, I wasn't great at it and I didn't love it. There's way better people out there doing it. And so at that point I said, either I'm going to stay in the industry and teach what is not in alignment with what I'm good at. And I was walking off stage going, full room, but I'm not feeling like I'm delivering my best because I wasn't delivering my best. It wasn't in alignment with who I was. So I thought, I don't know what the answer is at this point, but I found this thing called positive psychology, started talking about mindset, and that kind of began the transition.
I call that the itch. And I think a lot of people, regardless of the career that you're in, you get this deep whisper that's over and over. And I call it the itch because you're always wondering, am I doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing for me based on my divine purpose, based on my divine calling? How can I continue to evolve and grow? And then you have this mind chatter that goes on in your head back and forth of like, but how do I get to the next level? Well, what's the next step? And for someone like yourself, Petra, you obviously had already achieved a ton of accolades and all these awards and all this great success, but there was this itch that there was more. There was more potential inside of you. There was a shift into what you're doing. So I'm curious, when someone feels that itch, when someone hears these whispers, how do you bridge that gap? And especially if you're successful, because hey, if things aren't going well, it's easy to give up. It's easy to quit. Hey, I got to change. But what if things are going really well and they're really good, but there's this deeper calling, there's more profound voice deep inside you saying, hey, there's more to life than just this. I'm calling you to do something a little bit different. How do you awaken to that call?
Such a good question. Well, the way is to get quiet, right? But then when you get quiet and you hear that itch or that whisper or the knocking at the door, then you have a choice. Do I answer my higher calling or do I ignore it? And then once you've heard it, the pain of ignoring it is so profound. Whereas if we keep being busy and doing and hustling, we never have to address that big question. Then we don't ever have to deal with that choice that we make. So I love that. So the thing is, you got to get still. And then the second thing is, say you hear that whisper and you're successful. So there's a thing that, we hear a lot about the side hustle, right? Then you have your career, your side hustle. My guarantee is if you're successful in what you're doing right now, do you want to be successful for the next 10 years doing something that you don't really love? And because for many of us and the people listening to your show, what you do and who you are so intertwined. It's not like this is my job and this is me. It's like I am part of my job and my job is a part of me. Not even a job, it's my passion, my calling. Do you want to spend the next 10 years doing something that you're good at, but that your heart isn't your calling? Right. So my guess is if you're successful at what you are doing right now, you're going to be even more successful at what you're going to be doing when you're totally in alignment with your values. And I am not a big believer in quit your success and let's go for a calling. You test things out. You speak on this. This is what you teach. You figure out what you're doing well. What can I tweak slightly without like disrupting the entire audience that I've worked so hard on building? But my guess is, not my guarantee, is that you're having this itch, this calling. I would imagine 95% of your audience is also having this. And then the 5% that you might lose along the way, they need to go to somewhere else or anyway. You're not growing in the same way. I think, and my big thing is, right now, and I think a lot of it depends on what age you are too. If you're 20 and 30, you can afford, got a longer runway, you can afford to take more risks. If you're my age, mid-50s, my risks have to be really calculated. But what I believe right now, Todd, is I want to leave an impact. I want to leave a legacy. The one thing I do not want to leave, if you're my age, you probably felt this, are regrets. So would I go at the end of my life, hate to bring it up on a fitness show, but at the end of your life, do you want to have a regret of, what if I'd listened to that whisper, to that itch? What if I had served my audience in that way? Why not try? But try strategically, So
let me ask you this, Petra. What if what you're being called to do in your mid-50s is challenge you to risk more than what you're comfortable with? Oh, I got you.
You got me. Okay, so I'm so glad you're talking about it, because guess who's living this right now? Me. I have this big freaking itch. It's like a rash.
Talk to me.
It's like something you're not even the doctors are going to be able to deal with it. So okay, I'm putting it out there, Todd. So I think the first thing is, this is what I'm figuring out for myself, Todd. You got to have some strategy. And I think what we also think is, okay, I have this itch. Let's do it tomorrow. No, it's the long game. What can I do today to make this small step to move me closer to making that shift? So here's my big itch. I spoke a lot on perfectionism. I spoke a lot on mindset. My pain point, or the thing that I'm really interested in solving right now, is dealing with midlife. Women in their 50s who have this itch, and their big inner chatter is going, ooh, what happens if I'm too old to answer my whisper,
That's right.
to take the pivot, to risk what I'm comfortable with, even if that's really awful. So my big itch is going to happen next year. I'm going to answer the calling, but I'm not doing it tomorrow. And now I've got a year of planning. And here's when you know, I think, it's that balance between being super excited and freaking terrified. And that's when you know you have to answer. And for me, Todd, it was also, I've been feeling really like not lethargic, but not in alignment. And everyone that knows me, oh my gosh, you're so perky, you're so happy. And I have not been feeling that way. I'm almost like not liking myself. So it's doing it strategically. I have to look at my finances. If you have family, you have other things to consider. And so we have to balance what is real with our dreams and find that middle ground. Look, I'm single. I have enough finances. I can reiterate what I'm doing. So I have different barriers or different things to consider. But again, it's going with your life's calling, and then how do we navigate the two logically and sensibly, but with passion and curiosity.
Yeah, that's deep. Petra, I love what you're talking about here because I think it resonates with a lot of people. And it doesn't matter, as you mentioned, if you're in your 20s, 30s, or you're in your 50s or 60s. And I work with people of all ages, including up into their 80s. And I talk about risk quite a bit about, what is your purpose? And when you look out in your windshield and you look where your vision's going, that vision's got to be pulling you. The gravitational force and pull has to be pulling you to where you're going to in your vision, and not looking in the rearview mirror about where you've already been, because memories are awesome. But as human beings who are growth minded, how do we see and feel? How do we talk about emotional intelligence? How do we feel, and what drives us to that next level? And I ask you this question, Petra, how hard is it for you to actually be still and be quiet? Because in a noisy world, it's sometimes hard to turn it off and to really, number one, hear what that whisper is saying, and then two, to act on it. Is it hard for you to be quiet and to silence yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a habit. It's a ritual, right? It's a habit. And it's not a habit that I have earned yet. It's still the really first parts of a habit. It's not even ingrained in my heart yet. So, but I know the difference, Todd, of when I'm getting still and when I'm not getting still.
Right.
I see the difference. I feel the difference. What happens when I don't get still is my inner critic, all the doubts will just be on freaking like they've drunk a million cups of coffee, and I don't have the wherewithal or the quiet within to separate myself from the thoughts that I'm having. I am the thought. And I know how my days are and the choices that I make and how I operate in life. And still, I don't always make the wise choice. But I know when I do make the wise choice, it's always a win. And that's another thing. This is another thing I battle with in many facets of my life. And maybe some of your listeners do too. You know what you should be doing.
Right.
I know the strategies. I know the things that are going to make me better. Why am I not doing them? This is the constant push and pull that I get with my own mind. I know I need to be working out. I need to be moving my body. I need to be eating well, hydrating well, making good choices that are in alignment with my best possible future. So why do I not do that 100% of the time?
Why not?
Todd, tell me.
Why not?
Tell me.
That's why I always say, get your mind right. I get your mind right. Because to me, it is mindset of, hey, we all know we need to be working out more, eating better foods, higher quality, hanging out with the right people, preaching to the choir. But for all you mind right maniacs out there, it's uber discipline on a regular basis. And then having the accountability from those closest to you, or when you hire a coach to get things done in your business, in your physicality, in your life, in your relationships. Like, what is it you need to do? And ultimately, speaking of quieting your inner soul, is to get away and to really dream and awaken the spirit, and to awaken and open the heart up. Because when your heart is open and your soul is singing, I believe when you're dreaming, those dreams are going to prevail over the mundane of the everyday minutia that we've got to face on a regular daily basis. Because fact is, man, every day is a grind. It is hard every day. From the time you wake up until all the responsibilities, like a lot of times it is a grind. But if you understand what your life truly is destined to do and to be, then I think that pull allows you to operate in a different stratosphere, in a different vibration, and that allows you to lift up, and that attracts you to the people and to the things that will help you manifest whatever that dream is. Now we're talking deep, Petra. We're talking some
Yeah,
deep stuff.
no, but let's go there because I so believe this, Todd. Like the shift in the past 2 days when I was having this dream, and I was like, okay, are you going to answer that whisper? And this would be a big what if. This would be at the end of my life. What if you had only done that year that you? It's about writing my next book. And it's basically taking a year to travel the world and explore what midlife and aging means around the world. And so I'm doing that. I used miles yesterday to purchase my first one-way ticket to Argentina.
Nice.
Because it was the cheapest one to be able to go first class.
Yes.
Because I'm sorry, I'm not a digital nomad. I like to go and explore, but I put it out there. And the minute I did that, Todd, the minute I said yes, I'll figure out the rest. I got to get the big anchors in place, right? So I got that one-way ticket, booked, got my Airbnb, but then the calls and the people that I was just coming in front of my radar yesterday, I was like, this is ridiculous. This is such synchronicity. And then also it gave me the new fuel, the re-energized fuel to do the stuff that's boring, to do my, the email lists and the marketing and the stuff that I don't love to do, the stuff I actually dislike doing. But when again, we remember it's in the dream, and the dream, I think, Todd, when it's in service of others. Absolutely. This is like, if I can travel the world and bring people on this journey, because I have the luxury of being able to do this, it's not about me. It has to be in something bigger than ourselves. Otherwise, I just don't think the dreams come true in the way that we would like it to be. When our dreams can be in support of the bigger purpose, that's when everything shows up for us.
Well, congratulations on pulling the trigger and making a commitment to, because there's nothing like a one-way ticket to Argentina. So all my friends over in Argentina who are listening in right now, man, buckle up, because when Petra gets over to Argentina, you're going to feel the energy. And by the way, Petra, did you ever think 20 years ago that our conversation would evolve to what it is today, from like, singing boot camp chants and you teaching step to now we're talking like positive psychology and talking about big dreams and aspirations? I love it.
But you saw this, Todd. You were ahead of your game, because even if we look back right now, and I remember when I first started. No, I've been in the industry a while, because you're younger than I am. And they said there's this guy in San Diego, and he's doing this boot camp thing, like in the streets, and he just like everyone loves him. You were speaking to that 25 years ago. You were speaking into truth. You were speaking before we had the psychology and the science to back it up. You just knew. And I really applaud you for that. I'm not just saying that because I'm on your podcast, but you have lived this before we even knew there was a science to what it is that we're talking about now.
Wow. I have been exposed at an early age to this now positive psychology. You met my sister, Patty. And Patty's the one who is, she introduced me to this entire psychology when I was even in high school to understand this aspect. I want to just spin the conversation, because as a recovering perfectionist, as you talk about in your book, The Perfection Detox, which I love. I read The Perfection Detox, by the way. I don't know if you know this. On an entire plane ride to Australia, I was going to teach over there, and I could not put the book down. I was like, read it in an 18-hour flight. I read it all in one sitting, and I love the book. I want to talk about perfectionism, because I think for all of us, I think to a certain extent, many of us are perfectionists, and it's something that I've struggled with as far as, sometimes saying good is good enough, but at many times high expectations. I want things to, quote, be perfect. When did you first identify yourself or have this wake up moment that you're a perfectionist?
Well, I think also, Todd, let's just clarify that perfectionism is not always a bad thing. It's a word, because who decides what perfect is anyway? It's whether that word inspires you. Does it bring you more joy, or does that word suck the joy out of you? So when I knew how I had associated that word to my life was a problem was when I thought the very thing people wanted from me, the perfect expert, the perfect choreographer, the perfect influencer, was actually the very thing that was separating me from the people I wanted to inspire. My wake up moment is, I say you have a rock, a pebble, or a brick wall. My brick wall moment, Todd, was when the perfection kind of got out of whack when I started getting noted as, here's Petra Kolber, the fitness expert. Because when I was starting out, I remember my first idea convention, like in 1992, no one knew who I was. It was this girl with a weird British accent that was strong. They called me Petra Kolber. I mean, I had nothing to prove. It was like, she's this cute girl. She's doing step and something. Go and see her. So the risks were low, right? So I was like, oh, this is great. La-di-da-di-da. It's way better than my dance career. And then as the stakes got higher, and then Reebok brought me on, and then the contracts, and then TV, all of a sudden I was being positioned as a fitness expert. And then the voices of my past stepped in, where my old teachers used to say, you're not smart enough, you're not good enough, you're not this enough. And so what I thought, Todd, was to be a fitness expert meant you need to know all the answers. Well, let's just talk about a pressure cooker moment. Then you're standing up, being interviewed, whatever, and just say, I don't know the answer. And so I had such a warped sense of what a fitness expert meant. It just means influencing people. Can you inspire people? And so my wake-up call was CBS had called me up. It was New Year's. Perfect time for a fitness expert. Yeah. And they said, we'd love you to be on our morning show to do New Year's resolutions. And my first instinct was, I said, oh, thank you so much, but I'm booked already. But keep me in mind next time. Phone down. Do you think I was booked? Crickets. My schedule, I had turned down so much for the fear of not being perfect. But something happened that day, Todd. My soul, that whisper, that itching was like, enough. And before I had time for my brain to shut me down, my heart picked up that phone and I said, hey, you know what? I've moved a couple of things around. Lie. If that spot is still open, I would love to be a part of the show. And this was my wake-up call, Todd. They said, oh my God, we would love to have you on the show. We've been trying to get you on the show for 2 years, but you're always busy. For 2 years, I had turned down The View, The Today Show, the CBS show, but because I knew that answer was not in alignment with my whispering, with my calling, with the self I wanted to show up as, I put it in a box. All those, I can't do it, I'll do it when, I put into a box. And what you don't own owns you. And that was the day I knew I had to do some work to figure this thing out, to get over the anxiety of having to be perfect. And it wasn't an overnight thing, but that's why I wrote the book. It was 7 years of therapy and figuring it out. That's why I wanted to write the book, because there is a methodology, especially when I found positive psychology. When we know our thoughts, we claim our thoughts, we recognize which ones are moving us into the whispers and the ones that are actually keeping us away from our potential. That's when we get to do the work.
Wow. I can't believe
I feel like my coffee just kicked in.
No, I'm loving, because I'm thinking, how could Petra Kolber be afraid of the camera? You have what, 60 videos, DVDs, and programs in fitness, and I'm thinking about you saying no to an opportunity to be on national TV. So it wasn't fear of the camera; it was fear that you would make a mistake.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Okay, so here's the thing about VHS tapes. Okay, back in the day, let's go way back.
Yeah.
Some of you don't even know what a VHS tape is. If you don't know what a VHS tape is, ask your mom. Okay, right? So a VHS tape, back in the day, we filmed on film, Todd. It was 10 days to film 1 hour workout. You think that wasn't looking for perfection? There was like 10 cameras. There was makeup. We did 5 minutes. We stopped. Are you sweating? So I had control of the outcome. When we're talking about live TV, there is nothing you can control because things go wrong. But that was the thing. I showed up January 3rd or whatever. Right. Was it perfect? No, but it was good enough in this instant. I was then the expert for the next 2 years, because people in the moment are not looking for perfection. They're looking, can I relate to this person? Can this person teach me something that's of impact to my life, that can help me live a better life? And to be honest, if I'm showing up as the perfect host, what the hell am I going to have to share with you? Because how can I teach you? Because I'm already of that rarefied air. But when I can share with you my struggles, and I have the way to get to the other side, because this isn't about being a therapy session, that's when we get to do our best work.
All right. So I want to talk about a few of the steps, because I'm holding in my hands right now the Perfection Detox. Tame your inner critic, live bravely, and unleash your joy. And in this book, you've got a 21-step process. And I've actually plucked out a few of my favorites. I was reviewing this last night. Sometimes, by the way, when you read a book for the second time, it's actually better than even the first time. I could not put the book down last night. Melanie's like, "What are you reading Petra's book all over for again?" I'm like, "I'm dealing with some perfectionism right now." So here's what I have. Step number 10, you say take time out from social media. Elaborate on this a little bit. Can you please preach to me a little bit here?
Well, look, here's the thing. You do social media really well. I mean, you manage it well because you know why you're going on there. You know what message of impact you want to share, and you're very strategic about it. And most of the people listening need to be on social media for their business. But you got to be strategic about it. You need to go on or have a game plan, which you have, Todd. Know why you're going on, know what message you want to serve. How are you going to elevate and amplify the goodness out there in the world? And then more importantly, notice when you get off social media, how do you feel? My guess is, Todd, I don't know, you're sharing so much incredible, valuable, free information every moment that you don't have much time or even interest to be looking at what everyone else is doing. Oh my God, what's this person doing? And that's when we get into trouble. When we're going on look, we need to look at what other people are doing. We need to learn from them. But when we are comparing our social media to say, look, if I compare mine to yours, I'm just hanging it up because it's not going to happen. Well, if I can be inspired by you, you know what? He has a plan. He always has a message. He's always in service of his audience. He's always sharing and highlighting other people on it. There's a million beautiful lessons from there. Or I could go and go, oh my God, he's already got so many followers. How can I keep up with him? Blah, blah, blah. So it depends what lens we're using to go onto social media. Manage your time on there, especially if you're a one-man, one-woman show. Really batch it out. I'm not great at that yet. Be consistent, but really notice how you feel when you get off social media. And the worst time to go on is when you're tired or when you're bored.
Or the first thing in the morning. I always find I don't turn my phone on first thing in the morning because, as you mentioned in your book, the phone produces anxiety for me because of the text, the tweets, the Instagram, the Facebook, the emails, all of that. It's like I've got too much. So that's why I always talk about my morning routine is really, really crucial. One of the things I love that you speak about, and it actually relates to my family because I have a 17-year-old, and you know my kids. Luke is 17 and Brady's 14 and McKenna's 11. I think about the era they live in is much different than the one that we grew up in. And you share something about in here, and I'm going to share this, folks, on page 98. Pretty and perfect means you are a success. You're the living American dream, and you have just hit the pay dirt when it comes to happiness. That's what she's alluding to in social media. Keeping that in mind, it's worth remembering that. Check out these stats, guys. Only 4% of women around the world consider themselves beautiful. Only 11% of girls globally are comfortable describing themselves as beautiful. 72% of girls feel tremendous pressure to be beautiful. 80% of women agree that every woman has something about her that is beautiful, but they can't see their own beauty. And lastly, 54% of women globally agree that when it comes to how they look, they are their own worst critic. I put stars all over this page because, by the way, I love reading actual books. I don't like reading books on electronic form. I like Kindles. I love the actual books because I write all over them. I underline, I highlight, and sticky notes. And I have that lit up here. So just some great points on that, Petra, that I wanted to share with our folks.
Yeah, and especially if you have kids the teenagers. We're seeing now that depression is actually coming down with the kids, but anxiety is an all-time high because of, I believe, this thing called social media. And, look, It's a really, look, we don't have gatekeepers anymore, right?
Right.
There's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur. The gatekeepers are off, but that's also a problem too, because there's so much coming at us. But if you have kids, can you listen? They're watching you.
That's
So
right.
if you're on social all the time and you're kind of commenting about yourself negatively, the best way we can influence and impact our children in a positive way is to own your own beauty, own your own worth, own your own place in the world, because we can say whatever we want to our kids, but unless we live it, I say you learn it to teach it, you live it to preach it. Yeah. And this is why I think, thank you for bringing up those quotes again, because just another little God wink that I need to be going around the world. This is not a US problem. This is a global problem, aging and beauty.
Preach.
Yeah.
Next step you talk about, step 11, write a paragraph about your proudest moment. Why do you share that? Why is that important? I really like that, by the way, but why?
This came from positive psychology. There's 3 high-powered questions that I think can change our life. First one is, what are you proud of in your past? Really in your past. And this is a really powerful one, because we feel pride when we have pushed ourselves further than we thought we could. Think about you on the show Strong, right? You got to feel so freaking proud when you push yourself beyond what you ever thought you could. And I'm British. Pride is like, oh my God, who do you think you are? Don't get too big for your britches. But pride is a really powerful and useful emotion, because it's shown us we've gotten through something, or we've helped someone get through something. And when we feel pride and when we get through a challenging thing, it means we've pulled on our own character strengths. And here's the thing, Todd, in the world that we live in right now, we often think the answers are outside of ourselves. They're on social media. They're in another book, and I'm guilty of that. They're in another course. I'm guilty of that. The answers are inside of us. If we can find a course or a book that lights the light, is that whisper to remind us that we already have what we have inside of us. This is how our past and feeling pride reminds us that, I thought this was a challenging time. I've already done something that was hard. If I've done it in my past, I can do it again. Really quickly, 2 other really powerful questions you can ask yourself if you're doubting yourself. What is something in my present that excites me? Because that's your passion. And if you're going to get up at 5 a.m. with Todd and kick it, it's got to be aligned to a passion, something bigger than yourself. And here's the big one for me. What is something in my future, 6 months, a year, 3 years from now, that I'm looking forward to? Because that's your purpose. And we can tie our passions, our strengths of the past, to our passions of the present and what brings us meaning in the future. That's when we'll be able to get up and listen to those whispers and do the hard work that we don't want to do.
I love that.
Thanks.
Hey, folks, do me a favor. Those 3 questions that Petra just shared, can you truly please answer those questions and share them with me? I would love to know that, because I think maybe this podcast today is lighting you up, as Petra just mentioning maybe it's a book or something you read, or it's a course, but maybe it's this podcast. And if you answer those 3 questions, shoot it over to me. Email it, DM, tag Petra on it, because I believe when you look back and then you look at the now of what brings you the most joy now, and then you look forward and you write it down and you share it with somebody, it's much more likely, 70% more likely, if you write it and share it, 70% more likely to actually occur if you do that versus just to think it. So right now, y'all are thinking about those questions. Fantastic. Let's go even a step deeper and write it down and then share it with whether it's me, Petra, a spouse, or a loved one. But I would love to see what's lighting you guys up today. So Petra, I love that. Write a paragraph about your proudest moment, and those 3 questions is awesome. Great stuff. I got another one. Step 16. You have 21, but I just pulled out a few of my favorites. Move from a perfectionist to a passionist. Oh, I like this one. Talk to me. How do you go to a passionist?
Well, I think that, again, so this is the big thing I get pushback on, Todd, especially the high achievers, right? And I'm guessing that all the people listening, the high achievers, they're going to, hey, Petra, great, fantastic. But if I give up my idea of being perfect, my success was determined on me being perfect. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to say this is where we get into trouble. When perfection is the basement level. If it's not perfect, we don't ship it. If it's not perfect, I don't share it. If it's not perfect. So my question is, or my invitation to you is, if you can reframe what perfect means to you, take that stopgap off. And if it brings you joy and it excites you and it makes you do your best work with joy, don't change a thing. But if you're listening right now and you think, okay, I have to be the perfect coach, the perfect instructor, the perfect leader, and that makes you feel like you can't breathe, let's change that. Can you be a coach of passion? Can you bring your most passionate self to coaching, to instructing, to leading, whatever it is? My guess is you will work harder than ever. Because I've often said, people say, well, does that mean that I'm going to kind of give up and sit on the couch eating bonbons? Yeah, that's not in your DNA. But what it is going to do, it's not going to change the work that you do. If anything, you might even work harder. But the difference is, Todd, the fuel. Mm-hmm. Perfection, when it's toxic, you're fueled by doubt, fear, worry, imposter syndrome. When you work to being a passionist or someone who works from passion, you're going to work, and you want to be excellent. And you want to give it your A game. You want to give 150%. But you do it with joy, and you're not worrying about making mistakes, because mistakes are just strategies. They're just more learning lessons. You're going to work just as hard, but you're going to have joy, possibility, more collaboration. Because perfection won't allow me to collaborate with you, Todd, because that means I have to say I don't know something. Or then what happens if Todd's more successful than I am? Perfectionism often resides in a place of fear. So my guess is you think you're at your A game right now. What happens if we change the fuel that lights you up? And it's no longer about fear and doubt and worry, but possibility, passion, and curiosity. My guess is you're going to work harder than ever, and you think you've hit the ceiling. You haven't even tapped your potential.
Yeah. And then the hardest part is to actually do that on a daily basis, right? To actually live in joy, to live in love, to live in happiness. And that takes commitment, and that takes best practices and habits, right?
Yeah. And I love that you brought that up, because it's not, your crew will get this. Joy and happiness, it's not steady state training. It's interval training. It's going to be peaks and valleys. It's going to be effort and recovery. There's going to be great moments in your highlight reel and moments that freaking suck. And that's your backstory. But it's the contrast, right? But when you do this work that you talk about, as you work your body so hard, isn't it worth to work the brain and the thoughts and notice those thoughts and train them like you would your body, so that as you're working so hard, you can have joy. And then when you look back, one of your regrets is not that I worked so hard, but I worked hard and I had such joy along the way. So it is a practice, and we are also human. So again, don't beat yourself up. When you get off the podcast with Todd and you go, 5 minutes later, you're going, oh, I can't believe I just focused on the negative. It's human. You just kind of go, oh, here's the thing that helps me, Todd. When I have a negative thought, listen, I teach this stuff. I speak on this stuff, and I still have more than one negative moment.
Of course.
Instead of judging ourselves, just use the lens of like, oh, that's interesting. That's interesting that I'm having this thought versus I can't believe I'm having this thought. Because what it does, it allows us to look at ourselves, which we have to do, but it's through the lens of appreciation and appreciative inquiry versus the lens of judgment. And then that allows us to sit with the not so good versus just being comfortable in the wins. So it's also noticing our thoughts, but also what lens are you looking at yourself with?
I love
so
that.
Can we be as compassionate to ourselves as we are the people that we train?
And speaking of being compassionate with yourself and about yourself, the last process and step that I want to talk about today from your book, Step 19, it says, make peace with the mirror. Make peace with the mirror. So what is that all about?
Oh my God. I'm still working on that one. Let's be honest. Okay. I don't know if it's the same for guys. Everyone said to me, why did you write this book from a woman's perspective? I don't know if it's the same for guys. I think, and look, for all the men listening, and those of you that coach women, just know if this is where empathy steps in, right? You might not know exactly what their story is, but you can hold a space for them. As women, I'm going to speak for myself right now, Todd, right? I'm still in the fitness world. I am on stage speaking where they have these big jumbotrons. I am in front of the camera because that's what we need to be. People love video more than audio right now. So we need to be in the front of the camera. if I get hooked up, and I'm not saying I never, this is the last thing I'm really working on. If I make it about what I look like and what people are thinking of me, I will never be of the impact and influence that I need. When I make the lens about myself, the end game, we're in trouble. So if you have doubts with, could be your weight, you know, maybe you don't look like the personal perfect trainer or whatever, or you don't know whatever that Achilles heel is for yourself. When you find yourself going into that space of doubt, you put the lens on yourself, never a win. When we can put the lens back out into the world and go, okay, I might not be loving myself in the mirror today, but it's not about me. It's about how can I impact and influence one person out there to feel less alone. But Todd, this is why I'm going out next year, because this is my struggle right now. That as a woman who have never felt so assured about what I want to do with the world, have never felt so lit up, and I just feel like I'm getting started. And if I listen to social media and how I'm over the freaking hill. I was over the hill at 30. So I'm like, how do we deal with what we're being told? And only we get to decide what's meaningful and what's not. So that's the work. But sometimes I don't look in the mirror. Bit dodgy, and I've done that, and I've gone to the gym. I'm like, oh, I should have checked myself. I've got toothpaste on my chin, and but it's like, it's finding that balance. Can you look in the mirror and see all of yourself, not just the bits that you wish were different? Yeah. And this is just the human. This is, to me, is my life's goal now. Can I help more women, especially in midlife, love not the last few years, but where you're just stepping in to be able to have the wisdom and share that to the next generation and the youngsters, and not be comparing yourself to the beautiful millennials. It's that thing, right?
Preach. So, you know what I love about this right now, Petra, is number one, you just talked about, speaking to women. I believe more men need to hear this message as well. Because when I talk about the yin side or the more feminine side, it doesn't matter if you're a coach, you're a physician, whatever it is that you do, regardless of that. I believe the more in touch we are with ourselves, our deepest, truest emotions and passions, and that we can relate and have empathy and care and compassion and love for truly other humans, men or women, doesn't matter. I believe then we're ultimately fulfilling our potential and our human spirit. And I think sometimes the ego shields men from going deep down and being even better coaches, trainers, dads, husbands. So I believe this message, what we're talking about, is ubiquitous for all people. And I love the fact that you're taking risk today and you're declaring today that you're going out on a crusade to light more people up about what you're doing. And it's getting unstuck and going to unstoppable. And it's using the whole mindset of positive psychology, what you're doing. So folks, number one, pick up the Perfection Detox, tame your inner critic, live bravely, and unleash your joy, because Petra Kolber truly is a woman who's creating massive impact in the world. So Petra, I'm pumped up for you. I'm fired up over here.
I adore you so much. I'm so privileged. And one thing I'd love to share with your listeners before I go is the world would rather have your imperfect course, workout, diet plan than your perfect silence. The world needs you, your voice, and to coin Todd, your impact.
Yeah. The other thing too, Petra, that all of you who are listening to the podcast today and not watching it, although you can watch it, it is an option to watch it. Those of you who are listening, one thing that Petra has done 80% of the time on this conversation is she's been smiling. And that is something that we talk about joy. And whether you are a quote happy person now or joyful person or not, if you're trying to find joy, force yourself to smile. Go out there and literally have a belly laugh. I mean, because laughing and smiling is really therapeutic for your spirit and your soul. So Petra, I want to just thank you for bringing that to the podcast today, because even if one can't see it, they can feel it. It's like when you talk on the telephone, if you're smiling and you're full of joy, people can feel that energy. And I appreciate you today.
Oh, thank you. And again, if you're seeking more joy, give more joy. If you're seeking more gratitude, give more gratitude. If we give what we're seeking, it has that ripple effect. And be amazed at what comes back to you.
Hey, Petra, I actually have two other quick questions for you. I'm being called to ask you these questions. Um, what advice would you give to a parent who may have a child at any age that struggles with perfectionism? We have a lot of parents who are listening in. If their child struggles with perfectionism, what would you share with them?
Oh, that's such a great question. Here's the thing about our kids, right? They see their heroes on social media and
Mm,
they see their overnight success, whether it's their peers or the kids at school. And they know we love being parents, but the last person they're going to listen to is probably you. Here's what I would suggest. Find someone that's a hero to them. Could be a rock star, could be a movie person, could be even someone on an Instagram, an influencer, but find their struggles. Go onto the internet and find where that person struggled
mm,
and share with your son or daughter, look, it took them 10,000 hours or it took them all these ups and downs and the misses to get where they are today. Because when we can share the struggles of their heroes, then they get to go, oh, so it's not just the perfect life. It didn't happen overnight.
that's right.
So that's what I would say. Find someone that they respect and admire. And I guarantee you there's a story there that they struggled with that maybe was on their feed like 5 years ago, but bring to light to your kids the struggles that other people that they look up to are having, because
Mm,
that will resonate with them in a different way.
hmm And then I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this question. You are a two-time cancer survivor. What
Being a
lessons?
perfectionist, right? I
Yeah,
gotta go for the two. Right?
like, exactly. Like, what lesson, if you could share one lesson from both episodes of having cancer, what lesson would you share?
Hmm. So there's two lessons. Quickly, I had a melanoma on my foot, was cut out, gone, done.
Mm,
Okay. 2 years later, I had a lump on my neck. And here's why my first lesson came, Todd. We've got two scenarios here. We think it's a lymphoma. We're kind of hoping it is, or we're nervous that maybe the melanoma had spread. And I didn't know for like 3 weeks which option I had. So for
mm,
3 weeks, I was looking at I might have the rest of my life or I might have 6 months.
mm,
And all I could think of, Todd, all I could think of at that moment was not what I weighed, not what I looked like, not whether my VHS had hit the number one. It was, I have not been on this earth. This is the only thing I thought about. I have not been on this earth to love and share and the way that I know I'm capable of. That's all that came to me.
mm.
Fast forward, Hodgkin's lymphoma, completely treatable, very little sympathy from my doctors. But through that, I lost my hair. I gained 15 pounds of water weight from the steroids. I never felt less fearless than I did then
Mm.
because I had nothing to prove. I was bald. I was 15 pounds heavier. I am living with this. I did my most fearless living and joyful living at the time. And now I hope I don't have to face it again, but I'm 20 years later. And that drive of living every day like it is an extraordinary day, which
Mm.
when you hear any diagnosis, you suddenly realize you want things to be normal. You want things to be like kind of boring, right? You crave that again. So I guess for me, it's like just live every day as though it's an extraordinary day. Find the extraordinary in the ordinary of days. And I know all the listeners don't do this, but I got to tell you, Todd, I was judged really harshly by some people in the industry
Mm.
for the way I looked
Mm.
who didn't know I had gone through cancer because I'd put on weight. So
Mm.
we never know what someone's story is. So again, it's just bringing that empathy and kindness and guessing that whatever someone brings to us is another story that maybe they're not sharing with us just yet.
Yeah. Wow. Isn't that amazing that you said you felt fearless in one of the toughest times of your life, right? And Mahatma Gandhi, he has a great quote. He says, live as if you were to die tomorrow, learn as if you were to live forever. And I
The
love that.
best
It's because, like,
says it
how
all.
do you live as if you were to die tomorrow, but you learn every single day as if you're never going to die? Because if you can live more and learn more, love more, then ultimately what are you
Share
going to do?
more.
Share more.
Yeah.
all these things.
Yeah.
Petra, I could talk to you all day, but I want to just thank you for being here today. Where can our awesome folks find out more about you, follow you, learn from you, and follow your journey across the globe?
The best place is my website, petrakolber.com. And then on social, Facebook, Instagram are my two main ones, just Petra Kolber. And then it's going to link over to a new Instagram post. It's going to be this year of possibility and a year of no regrets.
Well, I hope all of those posts are imperfect and they're you have like maybe shaved your head and you've gained weight, but there's no cancer there. Like you're just showing all your imperfections. So, hey folks, today maybe you share an imperfect post. Maybe you share something that you just want to say, you know what, I'm not always the man or the woman that you think I am. I have things too, because Petra, you shared it. Behind every great hero is a great story. And when I talk about live a life worth telling a story about, the way you craft up your great stories is you get through a lot of adversity, a lot of strife, a lot of challenge, a lot of tough breakups, relationships, a lot of tough times. And Petra Kolber, you epitomize this. And I thank you for way back 20 years ago when you were banging on my wall to be quiet. We're actually just starting to awaken now, and I love everything you do. So I love you, girl. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
Awesome job, Petra Kolber. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. When it comes to perfectionism, this is something that I'm always thinking about, hey, you want to set high expectations for yourself, but you don't want to rob yourself of ever starting a project or doing something that you really, really want to do in your life because it has to be, quote, perfect. The bottom line is it takes action, is getting started. As you have a plan, you have a strategy, you take action on that, and you continue to move forward. And what Petra offered in this session today, in this episode, really is some great wisdom. Go back and listen to it. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it. This helps get the message out across the globe about that. And when you talk about getting unstuck and becoming unstoppable, all of us deserve to be even more unstuck and to become even more unstoppable. So go out there and make sure that happens. And one other thing, can you please, this really helps. Make sure you give us a great review. 5-star ratings help us, and writing a review helps us. As a matter of fact, what I want to do right now is I'm going to go out to one of my teammates, Julie Wilcox, and she's going to share one of the glowing reviews that we recently received. Without further ado, the one and only Julie Wilcox.
Hey guys, this is Julie Wilcox, and I have a couple reviews that I've got to share. Todd said one, but I say two because they are absolutely amazing. The first one I want to share with you is from Andrea Zajac. This is awesome. As a learner and entrepreneur, I've benefited from Todd's personal stories of success to expand my mindset. Yet he goes further to grow his audience, thinking by sharing his impressive inner circle, family, pro athletes, overcomers from personal tragedies, and exceptional business leaders. Every episode expands my mindset, yet reminds me to dust off my skills that I forgot I had. I am empowered to try again, and give 10 times more belief and energy, all while giving a big smile. That was awesome. Thanks, Andrea. Next one, I've got to share this one. It's coming from Jack's mom always. There is no way you can listen to this podcast and not get inspired. Todd has a way of just making you feel special, listened to, and always gets you fired up. You don't have to be a pro, a fit pro, and a pro to love him. He just inspires you to be a better person. Thank you, Todd, for all that you do, and God bless. Those are awesome, you guys. Please keep sharing. Please keep writing reviews. And remember, as Todd always says, to train hard, eat right, live inspired, and create impact.